All right, good day, hi, and welcome. Okay, okay. The World War III thing might be happening. Okay, but now I got to tell you about the important news. Okay, it is blowing freaking crazy out there. Even Marvin, I heard a bit of a ruckus on my porch there. I saw Marvin run out. It's pretty cool, man. Happy since bad to see. And then he goes, "Yeah, look for the Irish to you." Um, yeah. So basically, I shave off my beard and it goes back to winter again. Every time. Every freaking time. Okay, now in the lesser news, World War III. I brought my paper this time. Yeah. So I'm gonna go over everything. Even if I went over it before, I'll just maybe touch up on some points or whatever. Last night, uh, I noticed something new. The Netanyahu conspiracy is in full bloom. Nobody knows what to make. Half people think he's dead. I think he's still alive, and that you're seeing a smoke screen because like you think of it from like a tactical point of view. Like if you could convince the enemy that your leader's dead, then they're not going to look for him, right? But when their enemy is saying, "Yeah, we're coming for you," even after all this rumors of him being dead, we know his house was hit for sure. I don't know how many people would have been killed in it. I heard his brother had been killed or injured. Uh, there's a lot of Israeli ministers that have been hit. Uh, it doesn't seem like the Israelis have much left in the tank to fight back. So another Merkava got taken out by Lebanese anti-tank gunner again. They're I don't know what the Lebanese are using for anti-tank weapons. Probably older Russian stuff, I would imagine. Could be some new Iranian stuff. It's hard to say. But yeah, so I think that's like two helicopters and two tanks so far from the Lebanese. And like the Israelis are concentrating on the West Bank now. Like, okay, we can't take the Iranians, so let's just divert our energy to, like maybe you might want to prioritize the bigger, more powerful country. But I'm just saying. But when like what was it Netanyahu saying they're fighting an eight front war, whatever. That's a bit of a stretch, but it's definitely a three or four front war anyway. Um, yeah, it's I've never seen the anti-Semitism to the level that is. Well, it's not anti-Semitism, and I'll tell you why they call it anti-Semitism. This is my speculation. Is they can't say anti-Judaism. They can't say anti. They can say anti-Zionist, but they can't say the word Jew because if the Jew ties it all together, right? So that's why they can't say it. So that's why anti-Semitism. It's like when you tell somebody they're an anti-Semite, half the time they don't know what it means, right? It's just they don't want to be that. Well, I'm not an anti. No, I stand with the Semites. But who are the Semites, right? It's not just the Jews. Like Arabs are Semites. So okay, you know what I mean? Makes them mad when you tell them that, but like it's like, well, you chose the word, like it. And when they say anti-Semite, they're not talking about being anti-Arab. They're talking about being anti-Jewish, right? I think we kind of know. Like we're gonna have Bill C9 here in Canada, which is again gonna make us like the UK. So people are gonna go to jail for like something you posted 10 years ago. You're gonna go to jail for memes. We're at that point. Like if you want to destroy your society, there you go. You know what I mean? Like just do that. Like they think it's going to work. Like it creates the Streisand effect, right? Where if you tell people not to look at something, they're going to look at it. They're going to go out of the way to look at it, right? If you don't know what the Streisand effect is, she had a mansion in Hollywood Hills, and somebody flew by with a drone to, like, basically, like take like photos of it and stuff like that. Say, "Oh, look at this beautiful property," right? It wasn't done nefariously, but then she's like, take it down, remove it. She did it, got a court order, remove it from the internet, blah blah blah, and all that. And I can understand the privacy argument, sure. But what ended up happening is now everybody went and looked at it. So that's the Streisand effect. Um, Yeah. So is Netanyahu still alive? Is he dead? Nobody really truly knows. Only they know. But like again, don't if you're gonna wait to get some truthful news from uh, the mainstream media, good luck. If you ever expect the Israelis to tell you the truth, that's wishful thinking. Uh, the Trump administration, I'm thinking if you like, Trump is very sporadic right now, right? And the Iranians, yes, they're taking like hits 10-1 or whatever the ratio is. Yes, we know this. But in significant targeting, I think the Iranians are actually hitting stuff of substance way more than the Americans or the Israelis. And I'm thinking what's happening with Trump is if Netanyahu is dead, he doesn't know what to do now. It's like because Netanyahu would be his liaison, right? Like he'd be say, "We need this in the battle" because he's there, right? So I'm thinking if I have to guess at it, if I had to guess at it, that's probably what it is that he doesn't know what to do right now, because it seems like the last past 2-3 nights, uh, like there's been a lot of airstrikes and stuff like that, but like it seems like they don't know what to hit. Like you had some U.S. people, like staff, like generals and stuff. Like we ran out of targets. So that then what? Okay, you ran out of targets and they're still shooting back at you. I mean, they got a C-130 on the runway there the other night, and a lot of people look at that and they're like, "Oh wow, that's see that see look at the losses Iran's taking." But you have to consider that C-130's probably been sitting there for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like these are like parts planes. Like they're no. It's like the F-14s. Like if you see an F-14 getting taken out on the ground, it's like you know it's not going to have any effect on the war whatsoever because uh, these are planes they couldn't get parts for. They cannibalized. I think they had maybe 12 F-14s left that were actually functional out of the 30. And out of that, how often did they fly them? You know what I mean? The F-4 Phantoms, I think they could still get parts for, but pretty easily. But the F-14s, no, they've been all pretty much chopped up. The Americans, their last run out of the 500 of them, I don't know. I guess they only sold maybe 30 to Iran many years back. But I would say that it was like, it doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't matter if you take out the Iranian Navy and Air Force because, like Trump's saying, we destroyed over 100 Iranian vessels, warships and what have you. And, they got one submarine at the dock. Okay, I mean, you can't play that down. I mean, it's definitely going to take away capabilities, but they still have the Strait of Hormuz blocked. Now, people are making deals with the Iranians, and the deal is this: they did India. I think was the first one that said, "Look, could we have safe passage? And if we can, what's the deal?" Well, Iran's like, "Okay, well, first off, you have to sell your oil at either the yuan or renminbi, so this is going to basically benefit China. You can't sell your oil in the petrodollar, or we're going to sink your ship." You know what I mean? So everybody's like, it's a de facto. Like the Iranians are holding they're holding the world economy hostage. A lot of people don't realize that, but they are, right? It's amazing. Or at least 25% of it, right? Some people say it's only 5% of the world's oil. Then the next person it's 25%. It's 20%. It's a shit ton of oil. It's enough to bounce. Like 5% would probably bounce us into a global depression, and some nations probably wouldn't recover for it. Like they're talking now that some of the nations that are being hit now are not going to recover for at least till 2028. Like the gas prices, even if the war were to stop today, the gas prices are not going to start to go down till 2028. In Canada, we were just before the war, where our inflation went down by 1.8%. That's pretty darn good, right? And now, boom, we lost it all because of Trump, right? And Israel. So yeah, people are pissed. People are really pissed. Uh, Still not able to get accurate count of casualties and whatever, but it's got to be outrageously high. It's got to be. Footage is starting to come out in Tel Aviv, and the thing is that some footage is allowed, but there's a lot of areas where they're not allowed to film, right? Especially if it's an area of critical importance, because if the Iranians hit it, they don't want the Iranians to know what they don't want to be able to, the Iranians to be able to do battle assessments, because if they can, then maybe they'll hit it again and waste a missile rather than fire it somewhere else, right? But what I'm thinking is, like, for example, if they hit Unit 8500 or 8400 or whatever, they hit that, you're going to see like a complete lifting of internet propaganda. There'll be nothing they could do about it, right? Because they're the main ones that control all that, right? The internet censorship and all that. And the thing is that as the Israeli regime loses its power, so to speak, of surveillance and stuff, then you're going to just see all kinds of footage, and you're going to probably see how bad it actually is. But if you're just judging it by the superficial damage, like if you show pictures of Gaza and you show pictures of Tel Aviv, it kind of looks the same. So like the Iranian rockets, like they're yeah, like I can't imagine there's a single glass window not broken anywhere in Israel right now. Just every time you hear the boom, you just hear all these windows just the concussion just shatters everything, right? Be selling a lot of plywood there, that's for sure. But yeah, yes, okay. Guys, I do bash on the Jews for doing dumb things. You know what I mean. And I mean they deserve it. That's why I do it, right? So, but there is, like I said, like when I say there's not all of them. An example would be like the amount of protests going on in Israel right now against Netanyahu, because it's like you're getting us killed. So there's a lot of Israelis that are against the war, but it's still, the majority of Israelis are for the war, like for the, well, they're not for getting hit back, but they were all for the preemptive strikes and stuff like that. Now they're like kind of, bitching about it in the bunkers, saying, oh, why do they keep hitting us back? It's like, well, you attack them. It's as simple as that. Look, the Iranian strategy is superior because Trump was thinking Venezuela 2.0, or basically 12-day war 2.0, and look, we're now 17 days, it's St. Patrick's Day, okay, and the luck of the Irish is not shining on the on the Israelis. um, they're kind of hitting with impunity. They apparently have hit Leonardo weapon. Like Leonardo is like their Raytheon, their Lockheed Martin kind of thing. They hit that. That's going to affect weapons replenishment and weapons industry everywhere. Like for example, we use the Israeli Spike anti-tank weapon, which has some issues, but it's probably the best one on the market. And the thing about it is that aircraft, things like that, they use Israeli technology, right? So they're targeting that technology sector. So that's basically the prime income of the very little things that Israel actually makes. I mean, they don't really make a lot, right? They get everything for free. Fighter jets, F-15s, that kind of thing, F-35s. They get all that stuff for free, right? But they do contribute in technology. The technology is paid for by the Americans and other countries, but they work on it themselves. So in 2012, when basically they said 2010, 2012, when they said that, okay, China will be the world. This is what George Soros was talking about. That the pivot to Asia, China will be they brought in their social credit score system, which every Western country wants that. China was just the authoritarian model, right? And they're going to utilize the data centers for that, right? Because they want to make sure that they can control every aspect of your life. It's as simple as that. Oh, you bought too many of this today, or whatever, or your social credit score went down because of a Facebook post or something. Like there's people going to jail in the UK for Facebook posts, right? That's where we're at, and that's going to happen here under Bill C9, hate speech laws. Hate speech laws are like, because who's the arbiter of the hate speech, right? And when it's the radical left, like they're going to have a shot in gulags, right? Shot and then thrown into the gulag or shot, one or the other. But the thing is that yeah, taking out the weapons industry in Israel, that also hurts Ukraine, right? Because there was weapons go. Israel's a big contributor to that war, even if people don't realize it. Like it's another Israeli war. It's just it's on the Russian front. Zelensky is a dual citizen Israeli. His entire administration is pretty much dual citizen Israelis. All the Zionists, Victoria Nuland, Samantha Powers, George Soros, like they all, like, George Soros is anti-Zionist. Uh, Again, Jews fighting amongst themselves don't really count, because it's like, um, the problem with that is that they still are against the West. They still are arbiters of mass war everywhere. So the idea was that China would be the world's manufacturer, and all the tech hubs and banking would be controlled by Israel. Something tells me that that plan has just been delayed by like a century. You know what I mean? Like the Israelis, like the Americans are going to spend so much money trying to build back better for Israel. It's like it's going to cost you guys, so it's going to cost us all, but it's really going to cost the Americans the most. But how dare you have single payer healthcare or two tier healthcare system in the States? Because that'd be socialism. We're going to go rebuild Israel. Yeah, yeah, so they're really trying hard to get ahead of like the Jews are the most hated people on the planet right now because of, and it's not even the people that like you're that people that have any investment in the argument, other than you just made my fucking life harder by raising the fuel prices ridiculously around the world. You made my groceries more expensive. You made everything more expensive and miserable for everybody else because of your stupidity, right? So yeah, everybody hates them. I don't hate all Jews. I don't, but I understand the threat. Like I understand whether they're, if you want to oversimplify it, crazy Zionist Henry Kissinger, let's go to war and kill everybody, false flag type of Jews, or George Soros, progressive Marxist deconstructionist, let's tear it all down, open everybody's border kind of Jews. It doesn't really matter which ones you're talking about. They're they're detrimental to the West. All they do is seek to just destroy and deconstruct. Right? There's something wrong with them. And then your non-secular Jews always seem to always come back to, you didn't build that. You don't really have a history. Just be an individual and whatever. And nobody's really illegal. I'm a libertarian. Just you do you, and I do myself, and everybody will be good. But it doesn't work like that because the communists will never leave the libertarian alone. As soon as libertarians realize that, they turn nationalist, right? Um, and then when you get all these, open the borders and free market capitalism and blah blah blah, and freedom of speech and everything, and then say, oh, so people should be able to criticize Israel, we should have mass immigration there. You anti-Semite. You know what I mean? Every single time, it's like they're hardwired to be like that. I'd say maybe 80% of them. There's probably maybe probably more than that, but it's probably maybe about 10% of them that are actually reasonable people. So why they're like that, I don't know. It's the way they're brought up. They're rabbis. Most of them are hate preachers. Like Muslims have hate preachers. Their imams are hate preachers. Death to the West. You know what I mean? With the Jews, it's destroy the goy, whatever. What do you do? And then you've got evangelicals that think they're Christians, but they're not. They're just slaves to Israel. You do have a lot of Catholics and Christians calling out this whole Zionist project, whatever. And of course, they lose their jobs right away, and some of them go to jail and whatever. I mean, the fact that you can go to jail in most Western countries for denying the Holocaust, like like, but yet it's just a trope when you say the Jews have power, right? So, it is what it is. Like, you're not allowed to speak honestly. You know what I mean? Sorry, I got my granny glasses on, but so let's see what I covered yesterday. The 4E3s. Biden dead or alive? Covered that. Camp Victory. Yeah, the Camp Victory drone attack in Iraq. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know what attacks are at now, but the last count was like the Iranians were at true problem was 51 or 52, so 52 responses. Yeah, so the Houthis again, they're going to start to shut down their side pretty soon. Talked about the wounded vets, everybody getting shrapnel in their gut. 7F-35s. And there was a really expensive Italian UAV destroyed. I don't know what its significance was, but apparently it was quite the expensive destruction. The IRGC, yes, specifically targeting U.S. soldiers, telling citizens don't stand near any U.S. soldiers or anywhere they're at because we will be targeting them. The Israelis told their people that the Iranian rockets are sophisticated enough that if you lie down on the ground flat, they won't hurt you. Yeah. It's like back in the 50s with the duck and cover under your school. If there's a nuclear bomb, make sure you get under your desk because that'll help you. Yeah. Panic control, eh? Yeah, ours. Yeah, the 2,200 to 3,000 troops. Okay. Some people were like, look, nobody said they were going to do boots on it. Well, yeah, they did and they didn't. Like, the implication was, if you were to listen to Trump or Hegseth, that, Trump, well, we're going to take Krog Island, right? Krog Island or whatever you say it, right? Hint, hint, we're going to put boots on the ground, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm sure every military commander is like, yeah, you'll get our guys killed. So these Marines, like whatever. Most people, like most veterans, are saying, no, I used to work in those kind of units, and what they're for is like, like they're an adaptable force, right? So if you need to rescue a diplomat or do evacuations, so this is like if they're going to put like the second the U.S. soldier steps on Iranian soil, they're pretty much going to be killed. Like there's no way to support those guys, right? So more likely, what these soldiers are going to be doing is going around evacuating all the embassies that are under siege and whatever, and getting their citizens out. Because like not Rubio, the hell you call him there? Weasel face there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Scott Cruz, Ted Cruz. He was saying like, like there's about 1,500 citizens, and tourists and whatever, American tourists and whatever, that have asked for help to get out of the country because all the airports keep getting shut down because of the rocket attacks, right? I know Ben Gurion Airport has been getting fucking hammered. The Israelis are trying to leave as fast as they can, and of course, Israelis, you have to understand, Israelis pretty much get free travel, not free travel, but free entrance to every country because nobody will tell a Jew no, right? Yeah, so it's like they get front of the line for everything, right? So it's Americans pay for free healthcare in Israel. Again, you can't even make this up. And then it's like, oh, you're so anti-Semitic. Well, yeah, you guys are really pissing everybody off. you know. I already talked about the Canadian Arctic stuff. Did talk about Kim Jong Un testing 10 new missiles. Kim Jong Un's just sitting there going, well, how come I can't play? I want to play. I want to nuke somebody. Come on, somebody call me a name. Do something. Yeah. Cuban riots, I talked about that. A second Israeli 9/11 kind of, Mossad stuff, whatever. Yeah, all that. Oh, stuff on the back there. I gotta keep all that. I explained yesterday. You're going to get a false flags all over the world. Because they need to basically get a rally around the flag, right? So the Iranians are probably going to get out ahead of it, saying, well, when they do the false flag, we'll hit the real targets. If you see military targets hit, then it's the Iranians, right? Anything that's going to help the war, for example, you see drone attacks like you did in Russia on, say, a B-52 bomber base, stuff like that, then that, okay, that's they'll benefit from that. The Iranians would benefit if you blew up B-1 Lancers and B-2 bombers and B-52s. They're going to benefit from that, right? Or tankers or whatever. If you see Mass Mall blowing up or a 9/11 2.0 with the business building, that doesn't really. That's not going to stop the war. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you destroy the entire U.S. economy. They'll always have money for war, right? That's. I think people should have picked up on that by now. So, oh, it's a bird. I thought that was a cat. I hear meowing. I don't know exactly when they're going to do it, but they are going to sink the aircraft carriers. They might be doing is waiting for those boots on it, because that would be such a victory for the Iranians, right? You'd say, well, that'll rally around the flag, but they're ready for it. They're ready for a long-term war. Again, they're replacing the drones faster than they're destroying them. So they can go on for years. They know that they can keep the rocket barrage. What the Iranians have been saying is that no, we've prepared for a long war, without fuel and hardship and stuff like that. So the tunnels, look, everybody knows where the tunnels are. You know what I mean? You just can't get in there. You know what I mean? Moab's, the biggest gravity bombs, heaviest gravity bombs, can't penetrate 500 feet of mountain. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. And even if you could get one of those down a mine, like a shaft, you'd blow up a section of it, but you wouldn't blow up the entirety of it. You know what I mean? There's blast doors everywhere. Per section, right? So maybe you blow out a rocket or whatever, and you might take out some of the tunnel. Caves in, whatever. But they built structures to withstand that. They're ready to be nuked. Speaking of nukes, no, I don't think the Israelis have the capability to nuke right now. Just because what I'm thinking is, the Israeli Air Force, they're not in Israel right now. They have to be either in Cyprus or one of the other Gulf states because uh, being that like I mean maybe they have some stuff there just on hand, but I mean you're going to lose all your aircraft on the ground, right? We don't know how much military damage there is as the Israelis lose control of everything, and they will. Like economically, right now they're destroyed. You know what I mean. There's stuff still functioning, like you can go to a grocery store or whatever. It's just the windows might be broken, right? But there's going to be massive food shortages, starvation rates. Like again, how are you going to like you're going to have to airdrop sandwiches on a daily basis to the Israelis, right? Because they're going to starve to death. Plus, Hezbollah is they got him cornered, right? They got him cornered. Again, it seems like the way the Iranians are targeting. Again, we don't know for sure. We know that they're doing, specific with the rockets, but they're also these cluster rockets, right? Which I mean, people, crimes against humanity, yeah. And the night before, the Israelis dropped white phosphorus, on the freaking, people, in the West Bank. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, Hegseth, okay, I don't like the guy, but he was correct when he says we're not going to do a politically correct war. It's game on, right? It's like, okay, but you have to understand that goes both ways. This is the thing about, like, these Zionist types. Like, they're outraged when you respond back to them. Because they're psychos, right? There's something wrong with them. They start a fight and then get mad when you fight back. Like it's like, well, what did you think was going to happen? As far as like a draft or whatever, no. A draft would kick off. A draft in the States is not going to happen. It doesn't matter how heavy of a jackboot they put in. Like it's just at this point. They'll be lucky if they don't have a full-blown civil war and a military coup by the end of the summer. You know what I mean? It could happen even faster than that. Like, look, Trump, he's fucked up big time. You can see it in his face. He knows he fucked up. He doesn't know what to do. And you still have people say, well, people lied to him and gave him bad information. He believes that 80% of the people are for it. No, they're not. He knows. Like, stop giving the man excuses. Like, you're telling me he has no agency, that he can't figure anything out by himself whatsoever, that, just because it's the people around him giving bad advice, that his advisors are just so bad, that he's just so gullible and innocent. Well, if he's that stupid, then he shouldn't be in power in the first place. But no, he's in on it, guys. He's as evil as Netanyahu. There's no difference between. Yes, he was a good speaker. Yes, he's good with his crowds. Look, he's out there lying to his crowds, telling them, yeah, we're winning. Iran has nothing left in the tank. And he says it, and 5 minutes later, the Iranians do, like, largest rocket barrage ever. Hello. You know what I mean? And you say, yeah, well, we dropped, we did 6,000 sorties and dropped, 16,000 bombs or whatever it is, whatever they're at. Sure, granted, but they're still shooting back. Like their capabilities, if you degraded them by like 1%, you know what I mean? Like, there's only a little bit of footage. Like most of the footage you see is them just hitting delivery trucks, just saying, well, it's a possible rocket truck, and then maybe it's like a 1 in 10 chance that it actually is a rocket truck. And they have hit a couple of rocket trucks and radar stations and stuff like that, true. But they've hit a lot of decoys, but they've also hit a lot of, like stuff that just doesn't really matter. If you hit a tractor trailer, okay, yeah, you'll create a food shortage or something like that. But the irony here is like the U.S. policy has always been this: make the people suffer, bomb their food, bomb their water, bomb their energy sources, put them in the dark, and then they'll take to the street. They'll protest against their government and whatever, overthrow their government. Right? That's always been the U.S. strategy. It's never worked. However, strangely enough, it might work in Israel. Like the Israelis are about to have a civil war with each other, and it won't be a big one, but again, like I say, there's more Israelis are more for this war than against it, right? But yeah, like I mean, the Israelis they're they've been protesting Netanyahu for a while because he's a criminal, right? But at this point, like I don't know who's in charge. Like nobody knows who's in charge in Israel, and you're going to see like displays of disarrayment if Netanyahu's dead because and his upper staff is dead because the lower level guys, yeah, they'll know how to fight tactically and in their training and stuff like that. Sure, like we could all say with confidence that like the Israelis do have really really good training. It's just they're without the U.S. military they can't really do anything, right? They can't even fight a defensive war. They'll run out. It's too small. Like the country's only like 70 miles long, wide by 140 mile long, and it's only a handful of cities there. You know what I mean? There's like 7 to 9 million people max, maybe a little bit less right now. Like we don't know what the death toll actually is, but with that much destruction, like the odds of everybody making it to the air shelters every night. And the Iranians have already proved that they can target a lot of these shelters. They're not deep enough in the ground, right? So you have different levels of shelters. You have the ones like where they're nuclear proof, and then you've got ones where it's just like, okay, it's a bit of concrete. It'll keep as long as you don't take a direct hit, you should be okay, right? So I don't know. I don't think the Israelis are going to be able to go on for much longer. I don't think they're going to make the end of the month. And the Iranians, like you keep hearing Trump going on, oh, they're ready, they're almost ready to come to the table, not quite yet, So again, Trump overplays it that oh well, we're the tough guys, we're we want to have a little bit more fun, whatever, and I'll end the war when depends on how I feel, like whimsical, like. There's no plan here, and again, I think what's happening is it's like when the like again, you're watching the footage of flag draped coffins coming out, and you see these people, like they're at the funeral and there they are just bawling, they're breaking down, and it's like their loved ones dead because Israel said so. You know what I mean? I really don't know how how people are going to tolerate this for much longer. It's like this is going to become one of the biggest blunders. Like the Bush wars were bad. I think we all agree on that. Obama didn't really make it much better, right? But look, this quagmire, and that's what it is, right from the get-go. Like the Iranians, if they get the upper hand, right? Like I said, everybody's like, oh, look, they're not firing as many rockets, so they're running out. It's like, no, the rocket barrages, if you really do an analyze of how they're doing it, is the early ones were to take out the air defense systems, overwhelm the air defense systems, right? So if you've got an Iron Dome that fires 16 missiles, you fire 17 to 19 missiles, and maybe one of your missiles get through, you get them on the reload, right? And the Israelis are already complaining about not having enough Iron Dome. They're running low on the stockpiles, right? The Americans seem to have a lot more stockpiles than, they're not worried about the running out of missiles yet, but problem is they might run out of launchers and radars and targeting systems before they again they're still like look they might have to fire 200 rockets just to take out an air defense system, right? It'll be worth the cost. It'll be worth the cost because right now half the Middle East is flying blind, which means less response time. This is why I think they sent out those 2 Su-24s. Look, they sent out the 2 Su-24s and they got within 2 minutes. Remember, these things were traveling at 700 miles an hour, about 80 feet off the ground. 2 minutes out, That's damn close. If those two Su-24s would have made it over that Kuwaiti base, huh, or Qatari base, whichever, I forget where they were headed. Yeah, it was Qatar. Yeah, if they would have that would have leveled the base. They would have leveled the base. That would have been a victory for the Iranians. But I think what they miscalculated is that, okay, well, the radar, they won't see us coming, right? We'll be below the radar. But I guess there must have been an AWAC or something that picked them up, and which launched the F-15s, of course, and then, they go and they get, shoot down the, easily shoot down the Su-24s. But they got that close. Like 2 minutes is not a lot of response time. That is not a lot of response time at all, especially at those speeds. So the day after, the reports are that they took out some AWACS, right, on the ground. Now, did they not? Because there's such an information blackout that you're not going to be able to see it. Like in Saudi Arabia, for example, if you get caught uploading the damage, you can either go to jail or be executed. Like, so that's why we're not seeing all the damage, which tells you that it must be significant. Because if it wasn't significant, again, the way the Iranians are doing this, overwhelm the system, take it out. Okay, once that system is done, move on to the next system. Again, there's always a slowdown when they're finding new targets, right? Well, what are we going to hit next? I don't know this. Where is it? Okay, well, let's talk to the Russians and the Chinese. Can you get us some coordinates for, and the Russians and the Chinese on the back channels are doing this. It's openly admitted that we're giving them coordinates. Like Putin's like, he's out there saying, Trump's like, we're going to lift the sanctions on Russia just to get the oil flowing for now because of the crisis, and then we'll go back to sanctions. And Putin's like, we're not interested in selling you oil at this time. Like, Putin has all the cards, right? Look, Trump had Zelensky in his office and humiliated him and whatever, right? And he could have walked away from all this madness right there and then. But instead, no. We have to do what Israel says, right? All he cares about. Zionist evangelical doomer. Complete insanity. This man will have every U.S. soldier fucking killed in the name of Israel. There's no doubt about that. And it will take a while for people to realize this, but, as they realize it, like you've got the people on the U.S. Gerald Ford, they're long overdue. Their leave is overdue. These aircraft carriers need maintenance. Like the Iranian generals are like, yeah, send more. Wear them out. You know what I mean? You're starting to get dryer fires. You got toilets backing up. These fucking things are huge. You got to think about it. Like, there's like 3,000 to 8,000 people that can be fit on an aircraft carrier. There might be 5,000 on the Gerald Ford at the moment. That's a lot of freaking people. That's a floating city. It's a floating city, right? There's more people on that aircraft carrier than there is the next 3 towns combined. In my area, that's crazy when you think about it. But there it is, right? But those things are going to need maintenance. I mean, those aircraft. That's probably where you're seeing a bit of a slowdown. Like, look. Not only did they target the school because it used to be a naval thing, they didn't care, right? And they hit it again. They hit it 3 times. So they even killed people that were trying to rescue these little girls in the rubble, right? And again, I'm glad people are noticing it now. But what do you think? What the fuck do you think happened to Iraq when A-10s were flying over and dropping 2,000-pound JDAMs on, downtown Baghdad, right? Like, this is why the Iraqis are flying drones in retaliation against the Americans. You know what I mean? Like they want to get even. You killed 1.5 million of their people, right? Because of Israel. You know what I mean? So like the Arab world is going to destroy Israel. It doesn't matter where they go. Like, I mean, you're seeing mosques attacked everywhere. Anybody Jewish, again, it's the 110th expulsion of the Jews and the 10th Crusade. It's all going to be very, very violent by the end of the summer. I don't want it, but you reap what you sow, right? So what I've been telling people is, look, we're going to be suffering every kind of shortage known to man. Uh, like up here in Canada, like we have enough oil to be completely independent, but yet because we're linked to the petrodollar, we're getting hammered, and those prices aren't going to go down until 2028. Now everyone's going to blame Mark Carney for it, but like Mark Carney's like, I'm not getting into this work, you know. Which again, you can't take any of their words. They're going to flip flop at some point. Look at Starmer. He's a deer in headlights right now. The only one that actually said what their intentions kind of were was Macron. Again, no fan of Macron, you guys know that. But he's like, yeah, we're going to send, here's a decisive decision. We're sending the aircraft carrier here. It's nowhere of a significance, but it's there symbolically, right? The HMS Dragon. But I gotta hand it to the British. The fact that they got that fucking thing going that we needed like 6 weeks of maintenance and they had it up and running and ready to go in like 22 hours. Those guys must have fucking slept good the next day. Like they must have slept good the next day. But yeah, they must have had like 1,000 guys working on everything all at once. And they got one warship that they can send in, right? The rest are all dry docked due to pronouns, right? That's what's happened. That's what's happened here in Canada. That's why all our warships are down for maintenance. It's like Trudeau basically gutted our military. Carney is actually doing really good with our military. It's just you're not going to see the fruits and labors for about 5 to 10 years, right? Because it just everything takes so fucking long. It just is what it is. But all these new partnerships and beefing up the Arctic and stuff like that—that's what we should have been doing. We shouldn't be in NATO. We shouldn't need NORAD. And I think Carney, if he's going the way I think he's going, is he's not saying the quiet part out loud, but it looks like he's trying to get ready to decouple from NORAD before the Americans kick us out, right? Which NORAD was a mutual agreement, but and this idea that it's only the Americans that without America, Canada couldn't defend itself, and so that we have our problems. There's no doubt about that. We have our problems, but the idea that like there's a reason why prime minister after prime ministers let the Arctic lapse, because it's even with no defense there, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to cross the Arctic. Like it's death. It's guaranteed death. Ask the Franklin expedition. You know what I mean? Look, the Franklin expedition, okay, even if they had the Louis Saint Laurent icebreaker, still wouldn't have made it. And the icebreakers, right? Even they have limitations. There's a great movie. What's it called? Basically, it's based on a true story of a Russian icebreaker that gets caught, and there's like this giant iceberg that's getting pushed towards it. What was the movie called? But they were stuck like 2 months in the ice, right? And they had to wait until everything thawed out, and then whatever. They had to keep blasting the ice to keep the freighter from getting crushed, and all kinds of stuff. It was a really good movie, anyway. But anyway, long story short, yeah, like the Arctic is just a natural barrier. But we're like reassessing all the things we have up there. And Canada has the most Arctic capabilities of all the countries. We don't have the largest numbers up there, but we have the best equipment next to, say, the Finns, the Swedes, the Danes, whatever, Greenland. They have equipment, but we have probably the most equipment up, for the Arctic. With the exception of maybe the Swedes, Norway, and Finland, right? Iceland doesn't really have anything. Basically, they're part of the Nordic 7. Like there's the Nordic 5 or the Arctic 5 and the Arctic 7, right? And the Arctic 7, Iceland's like 300,000, 400,000 people, right? If there's a place on the planet I want to go visit, it's Iceland. Just to see it, summertime, just to see it, go for 2 weeks just to see it, A lot of people want to go to Hawaii or the Bahamas. No, I want to go see the Arctic. I think it would just be cool. Like I want to see, like my Arctic first, just go up to Resolute for or Arctic Bay for like a week in the summer, just to see it. I mean, you could be there for a week, and it'd be expensive as fuck, but just to see it, go on a cruise or something there. But I actually want to go to the towns. Like I want to go like through Arctic Bay and Callowit and stuff like that. Even if you're there for a week, just to see it. I almost went up there with Sam and I, but our business venture fizzled out. We got taken out by an NDP. Yeah, we were gonna go. We were gonna go help the Inuit, but no, they told us to go fuck ourselves. So Sam was pretty mad about that. Hope he's doing well. I haven't talked to him in a while, but we were gonna haul all kinds of stuff up there and start cleaning up scrap up there, and no, they didn't want to do it. They had other plans. The funding went for something else. So I was like, anyway. But what I'm talking about though is that like the Arctic, okay, is where Canada should be focusing, because the Americans are trying to make a claim to our inland waterway, right? It is clearly an inland waterway. Like the Strait of Hormuz, you've got different countries on that waterway, right? Which makes it an international shipping lane, right? One of the busiest in the world. It's a strategic hub for business. Arctic, it's Canadian soil on both sides of it. It's inland. It's kind of like trying to claim that the Hudson River is a part of the Atlantic. You know what I mean? Like, well, because it comes out to the Saint Laurent, then it goes the St. Lawrence, and then it goes out to the Atlantic. Therefore, it's an international waterway. It's not. Like all the way down the U.S. coast, you have inland waterways that sailboats take, so they don't have to go out into the Grand Banks, right? Because the Grand Banks are dangerous as fuck because you've got high winds, big waves, and shallow depth, right? So, like the average depth for the Grand Banks for the first something like 75 miles is only 70 to 100 feet deep. Like that's it. Some places like 30 feet deep. So you get a 60-foot wave, you lose your fishing boat, right? That's what happens. The Grand Banks are like that's why they have all these inland waterways. So until you get over the continental shelf, and then it drops off to like 14,000 feet or something like that in the Marianas Trench. But the point I'm making is that countries around the world are doing the hard no. This is not a cause for this is Article 5. It doesn't pertain to Article 5 because this is a war of choice, right? Israel and the United States started this war. So Trump, the thing about Trump, okay, he has to do all these theatrics to say, okay, well, I'm going to threaten to leave, NATO and blah, blah, blah. They're not going to leave NATO. And I'll tell you why, because it's a business deal, right? NATO is not about protection, it's about business. And this is why I'm not a fan of NATO in the first place. But you could have the Nordic 7, those partnerships, that makes total sense. NORAD makes total sense for Canada and the United States. It makes total sense. I'm not for NATO, I'm for NORAD. Put the money there. Why? Because right now, okay, maybe don't put the money into NORAD as much because, we got to do things independently because we can't, the Americans are about to attack us in the coming year or so. Like when the Iran war fails, it's, a friendly takeover of Cuba. What a friendly takeover of Cuba is going to look like? Downtown Tehran. They're going to kill the Cubans just because Trump's got to get a win, right? So we're going to use air power to take out the Cuban regime, right? Which means they're just they're going to bomb Havana, kill all those people, and say, "Wow, they're terrorists down there." It's literally like that. It's the Team America movie. I always thought it was a comedy. It turns out it's a documentary, right? So it's like fuck. But that's the sanity levels of people we're dealing with. They're complete these war hawks are just absolute brutally evil. They're just pure fucking evil. Like they're starving out the Cuban people right now. So there's all kinds of riots and shit going on in Cuba. And like they're like, well, yeah, well, we'll do that, and they'll riot against the government, and we'll get regime change. And no, that doesn't work. How many fucking Venezuelan riots? Look, the same Maduro's regime is there. It's just he's absent. That's it. There's no regime change, right? And all that oil that the United States stole, I was going to drop oil prices, and then we could tell Alberta to go fuck themselves, and we won't buy any more oil from Alberta. Well, that's not working out too well. Why? Because all that oil is going to Israel to fight their war. And again, don't take my word for it. Like, look into it. You'll see what I mean. Like the freighters that got stolen, yeah, they're going. That's where they're going. That oil's not for Americans. What are you fucking silly? Who do you think you are? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like your country invaded another country on behalf of another country. That's what's happened. It's crazy. Like Americans are pissed. Look. The Tim Pool, I remember I was talking about Tim Pool a little bit yesterday. You still, like, that guy's grift is just absolutely... The guy was pretty good, say, a little bit before he got big. Like, when the ad apocalypse came in, right, for some reason, they just didn't touch him. Like, he was the guy he was made out of freaking Teflon. Like, nothing stuck to him. Everybody, like Stefan Molyneux gets taken out one night. He was kind of like the first guy. I got taken out like a night after. A few weeks later, Alex Jones gets taken out, and it just like it goes and it goes and it goes, right? So I got knocked out in round one. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, only a few people were left standing. Canadian Prepper got really lucky, but Canadian Prepper's played. He's played a more cards to his chest than I have. He knows what to hint at, but he also knows what not to say out loud. I just say everything out loud, and consequences be damned. Speak freely or die, right? So it's like they're gonna kill us anyway. So it's like, might as well just let people, here, take the information. If you can prove me wrong, good luck to you. But from where I'm sitting, listening to all the people say the quiet part out loud. It's just, that's the tall tales of these psychopaths. You call them out on what they've said and they still punish you anyway. It's like, no, I'm just repeating what you told everybody. You know what I mean? The thing with Trump is he can't get a story straight, neither can the rest of his staff, right? But like Tim Pool, he's out there going, oh, people would be, they'd have you believe that people don't support the war and that it's all Jews' fault, but it is. Again, are you going to sit there and really try to convince people that Iran fired first? He didn't say that, but he's like, yeah, we're responding to what? Name the date and the incident. Well, 47 years of stuff that's vague and again, date and time. Dates and times. Exactly when did Iran, attack you? Well, he was helping rebel groups in Syria. Yeah, fighting ISIS. Again, Trump out there claiming, I destroyed ISIS. ISIS still they're fucking running the country. It's an Al Qaeda ISIS leader running the country right now, literally in Syria, because that's what Israel and the United States have done. Again, it's just the shit show that it is. But guys like Tim Pool, he started hiring Jewish co-hosts, right? And now it's going to cost him. Nobody is on board with the Israeli thing. They are in the wrong. They attacked first. The Iranians are responding. They're not using aggression. It's not Iranian aggression. It's Iranian retaliation. You killed their Ayatollah. You killed their children. You're bombing them. You're killing their civilians. You're killing their truck drivers, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Seriously. If we were able to see the full list of every fucking bomb strike between Israel and the United States in Iran, I bet you 99% of it is just like empty buildings and like, yeah, sure, you're going to hit the IRGC headquarters and stuff like that, some command centers. I have no doubt that they're going to do that. But 99% of the stuff is going to be stuff that, why did you drop bombs? For show, shock and awe, shock and awe. So what outcome does it have on the war? Well, it just hardens the Iranian resolve, meaning they're going to keep shooting at you. But you have to understand, they kind of want this. Like the leadership wants this. Look, Netanyahu doesn't care about how many of his own citizens he kills, if he's even still alive, or the next Zionist that's in power. Because to them, ends justify the means, right? So if we kill more Israelis, they'll be mad and they'll want to kill more Iranians, okay? Now, the Iranians, they're not looking at it like that at all. They're like, okay, well, here's how we get out of this. We hold the cards. We'll stop when like basically all the shit that Trump demanded and Bibi demanded Iran do, the Iranians are like just reversing it, saying, no, you're going to get out of the area. You're going to, demilitarize the United States. Like the United States is never going to be in the Middle East again. This is the end of it. Now, if somebody says, yeah, but this is Trump's 4D chess plan. That way we're sure we're not going to go back under the next administration. And you're going to hear that from the Q people. Because all they can do is cope. They're grifters, right? They're grifters. The Q thing is not a thing. Do not listen to the Q people, period. Full stop. You'll become dumber. No, this is a plan that went very, very fucking awry on them when they really miscalculated the strength of Iran. Now, is Iran the strongest military in the world? No, they don't have to be. They just needed a good strategy. Their strategy, low tech, works no matter what kind of thing, backed up with a little bit of sophistication. Close enough is good enough. These rockets, again, by the time, at the rate that they're destroying stuff in the Middle East, right? And you remember, like a lot of these Gulf countries were in on it as well, right? So it's not like they wanted to be the spearhead, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So for Saudi Arabia, it's like, well, we can't take out the Houthis, but if the Americans want to do it, or the Israelis want to do it, we'll let them use our airspace, we'll let them use our bases, etc., right? And the Iranians, and again, this is probably the biggest miscalculation, is that the Iranians, like the Israelis knew that they were going to get hit back. Like they're not that dumb. Well, it's hard to say, but like they knew the Iranians were going to hit back because they saw it in the 12-day war. And the 12-day war was a surprise and wake-up call for them. So they thought, okay, well, when they hit us back, they're going to do the same thing again. We estimate they have this many rockets, right? Again, we don't know what the stockpiles... Like, you've got people that are like, no, the Americans are running out of missiles, and the Israelis are running out of missiles. And then you got the other people, well, the Iranians are running out of missiles because if they don't do a 300-round rocket barrage every day... then they're running out of missiles. When it's like, it doesn't work like that. They'll be out of missiles when they're out of missiles. And then other people are like, no, they're just lying to you. They've got, stockpiles to the yin-yang. This will go on for decades. We don't know. We'll know when we know, like if we ever know, you know what I mean? But it doesn't really matter because if they're hitting the Leonardo weapons industries in Israel, that means they're going to be hitting stockpiles, right? So you don't necessarily, and the Israelis, I'm sure they've got cave stockpiles similar to that of Iran, but they probably don't have as much of it, right? So again, you can level the cities, but they'll still be able to fucking fire back and forth at each other, right? At some point, you either get to a stalemate where you're just basically shooting rockets at mountains, and it's just like, okay, mountaintop to mountaintop. It's like, okay, well, now you got a Kashmir situation where it's just artillerying mountaintops. It's like, okay, yeah, it just is what it is, right? But the thing is that like Israel is not going to be a world power. Like they are a world power in the sense that they control the United States, right? Like, I don't think there's anybody, even pro-Israel, that would deny this at this point. It's like, oh, no. It's like this. And you got these people, again, they have to do this as a cope. It's like, the United States dragged Israel into this war, kicking and screaming. Okay, well, riddle me this. Netanyahu on public TV for months. Oh, if the Americans don't do it, we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it. We're going to go in first. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Okay. And then the same night that the United States hits, well, the Israelis were just ready to go. They joined in. So no, this was not the United States initiating the war. It was the United States and Israel initiating the war. That it's openly admitted. It's open again. Prove me wrong. Call me anti-Semite and racist, bigot, and all the stupid stuff you want to call me, but you can't call me wrong, right? And the thing is that the miscalculation is that Iran was going to hit Israel, and then do like symbolic hits back, right? They'd hit Iran. Because like the other way they're looking at this war is like, we'll just take them out incrementally, okay? We'll hit them now, and then 6 months later we'll hit them again. Take out, because they won't be able to rebuild all the stuff in 6 months. And then over like say 10 years, you can completely fucking level the place, you know what I mean? But the Iranians like, no, if they started the war, we're at war. It's not a special military operation. Epic fury, it's epic fail, right? I mean, like epic fury. Like talk about a fucking Team America fucking title for a fucking military operation. It couldn't be any more Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah. I wonder what the history books are gonna like somebody 100 years from now reading about this. Like, what are they gonna say? Like, were these people fucking stupid or what? But hey, just laugh at the chaos out of it all. No, they miscalculated with the Iranians. The Iranians are not ready to come to the table, even though Trump says they are, and they're begging for us to come to the table. They're not. Their ambassador on public TV, whether you believe him or don't believe him, he's on public TV. So they're saying that the Iranian position is that once the United States leaves the area, there's a whole thing, leave the area. That's the big one. So that, and guarantee, there has to be security guarantees that we're not going to be attacked again by you guys in 6 months or 2 years or whatever. And, the Iranians know they're not going to get any concessions from the Israelis. Why? Because the Israelis are way too hateful to do that, right? So they're like, okay, this is good. And then we can just keep taking out, like this, the longer the Israelis keep this going, the more destroyed they're going to become, right? Now you say, yeah, but we'll destroy all of Iran. Okay, you're taking out civilian targets. It's not the same. Look, there's going to come a point where the Iranians are going to have complete drone superiority over the region. They will have air superiority via drone. The Americans, yes, they are bombing willy-nilly, but they do not have air superiority. I know a lot of people will fight me on this one. You don't know what air superiority is. They can bomb anything. No, they can't. They can't do. You cannot fly F-15s or F-35s across the country completely without major support and satellite and AWACS and all that stuff. You don't have air superiority to loiter there for hours now. You don't have air superiority until you can send in A-10s. Once you can send in A-10s, because the A-10 is the easiest thing to shoot down, it can take a hit, don't get me wrong, it's the toughest airplane ever built, but missile-wise, the reason why they stopped using the A-10s is because they were too vulnerable to air defense. They're too slow. They only fly 450 miles an hour. They're literally like 10 miles faster than a P-51 Mustang from World War II. But they're not meant to be fast. They're meant to be low and slow and knocking out targets and sitting there, flying around for 10 hours, that kind of thing, right? They don't have that. They say they have that, but they don't. They clearly don't. They have to get in, get out, and they have to find a safe way in and a safe way out. Or they get shot down, right? And because they're losing radar capabilities, early detection, basically, that's making it harder for the fighters, right? Like, you don't just send in an F-22 and expect it to come out alive. Like, you need a lot of support for these things to move, right? And that's getting broken down. Again, how much stuff has been, just the stuff that we can confirm is losing the F-15s. There could be up to 8 F-15s shot down now. 2 Israelis, 3 American, 4, maybe 4 American. We don't know. Um, all like there's only a handful of people flying like the Qataris are flying them. The Japanese are not in and out there, but they fly the F-50, the J-15, um, and obviously the Americans, the Israelis, the Qataris. So there's only a handful of people flying the F-15 anyway. But that airplane that has such a invulnerable, invincible track record over Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff like that, because they had air superiority there. You could fly over your F-15s all over Iraq, because the only air defense was a MiG-29 or an MiG-21 or Mirage F-1 or maybe a couple of MiG-25s. They didn't really have a lot of air defense because the A-6 Prowlers and Intruders and the F-117 or F-117s and F-111s electronic warfare aircraft were able to subdue Saddam's air defense systems pretty early on because the guys weren't trained well on those. So, you could fly with impunity. That's air superiority. But when you don't have air superiority, you can't just send F-15s across the country. They'll get shot down, right? And when there's less radar warning time, and you have less air, like the electronic warfare, like again, if you start seeing A-6 Prowlers making a comeback, you know that the Americans are in a lot of trouble. If the forward radar stations that, like the THAAD systems and all that, and the Patriot systems that have all, like, I don't know if David Sling and the Arrow systems are still up and running in Israel, because I'm sure, like, that'd be top priority number one for the Iranians to take those out, right? It's not easy to do, but, like, as soon as you take that out, then, like, the way it works is like the Arrow 2 or Arrow 3 systems, they will shoot stuff down way the fuck out, right? Like, way out, okay? And the David Sling shoots stuff out at about a medium to long range. And then you start getting into the Patriot system. Then you get the Iron Dome. And at the Iron Dome, it's pretty much over your city, right? Iron Dome can shoot about 60 miles. The Arrow 3 system is like 400 or 500 miles or something like that. And then the other ones are in between. Patriot system, I think, is like 140 to 250 miles. I guess it depends. Same with the THAAD system. The THAAD system is like that. So you can go look at the ranges. I kind of get them a little all confused, but you get the idea. Like, it's a layered system. So every time you take out the longer layer, they have less time to respond, because they can't see it coming. So now they have less time to respond. But it's a two-way street, right? This is why if they're taking out AWACS, like AWACS are, like I say, if I'm the Iranians, like tankers and AWACS are like the top, like even before an F-35. They even get one on the ground. And I think most of that stuff's going to get destroyed on the ground, because when you take out the radar systems, when these things land, like I'm sure they're not landing everything on the base. They've got to have makeshift runways all over the place by now, because it's like, okay, well, we're going to land them on the Kuwaiti highways, because if we land them at the U.S. bases, they're just going to get leveled, right? And again, the Iranians are not going to waste rocket after rocket hitting the same base unless there's stuff there. But it's also like, for example, in the Ukraine, the Russians have taken out all the Ukrainian air bases, right? So it's kind of pointless to keep trying to rebuild those air bases. What they've been doing is, and this is very clever of the Ukrainians, is they get these mobile mechanic trucks. And basically they have these makeshift runways all over the place. This is why we should be getting the soft gripping for Canada, because this system would work fantastic in Canada against any opponent. You get soft grippings that can land on highways, right? And then what you do is you have your mobile mechanics meet up at this runway, that runway, and you never have to worry about big structures, because it's like you're always on the move, right? I'm sure you get found out once in a while, but this is what they're doing with the Mirage 2000s, the F-16s, and whenever we start building soft grippins, I think we're going to build 150 for the Ukraine, hopefully not on the Canadian taxpayer, but probably. But it'll be jobs here. It'll be jobs here, right? Who knows? But the thing is that that's what the Americans are going to have to do now is mobile mechanic stuff. But how do you mobile mechanic an F-15? Like you can't land an F-15 on the highway. A, too fast. B, too big. You know what I mean? Can't land a B-52 on the highway. But I'm sure there's places off in the desert where they're making new makeshift stuff. But that stuff's going to get found. Why? Because um, Russian and Chinese satellites. And the thing is that the Chinese propaganda that's out there. There's one guy they got like three AI channels with this one guy's, and then there's the actual guy himself, and every night it's like we hit this, and this. It's like okay, that sounds lawful. Like um, there's no evidence of it, right? Like we're finding out what these data centers are all about now. And a lot of it is AI slop just for the sake of, and not all of it would be coming from China. Some of it would be, the idea is the state of the fog of war, right? The Americans are doing it, the Israelis are doing it. Say this got taken out, okay, well, they took out this system. Like we know, for example, that $1.2 billion radar system got hit because we saw the missile go into it, right? And then we saw the satellite data after showing the destroyed base. But even at that, you take like my grandfather said, leave nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see, because we could be looking at AI stuff too, right? We don't know. We don't know. But my hunch is this: that once, like, even if you can do what the Ukrainians are doing and have the mobile mechanics, like the F-35s requires so much technical maintenance that what's going to happen is like you can't make these things mobile. You know what I mean? They can't just land them, on a makeshift runway somewhere and then get all your parts and everything you need to maintain the aircraft easily. You can do it with a MiG-21. You can do it probably with an F-16. You can definitely do it with an A-10, well proven. A-10s, pretty much work in anything. Um, but like American aircraft, one of their Achilles heels is the maintenance. So even if you could get that, it's the maintenance. The makeshift runways will be tough enough to, you can only build those so fast. But every time they find one and they take out a couple of aircraft on the ground, like again, if I'm the Iranians, if you can't shoot them down, blow them up on the ground, right? But if you keep taking out the ground radars, at some point, the airplanes that are flying around, if they've got their radars on, looking for like say drones and shit, which are really hard to detect, even with the state of the art F-35 radars, they're really difficult to detect. So what they've got is like anti drone rockets. It's like a shotgun blast pods that the F-16s carry, and they're trying to fly around and shoot down these drones with those. Whatever, but you have to find them, right? So if you're flying over your own airspace in your F-16 and you got your radar on, you're probably okay. But if that radar gets picked up by the Iranians and they have a long-range air defense system, they could shoot down your aircraft over your territory. that's the problem, right? But you're not going to be flying over Iranian territory with your radar on easily because, like I say, these airplanes they function on data links, not radar. Because it gives them away. They might use it at like periodically, during the bombing run, but like if you fly over into Iranian airspace with your radar searching at like 150 miles out or whatever over the mountaintops, they're going to pick up that signature right away. And when you fly over the ambush of the air defense systems, you're going to get shot down. But with the radar systems, more and more of them going down per day, the data centers, the command centers going down, the situational awareness is going to get to a point where you're probably going to start to see a lot of aircraft getting shot down, or aircraft incident. Like a lot of people are saying, like, no, look, the Iraqis took credit for shooting down the tanker, right? Obviously, the Iranians, I think they said they shot down the three F-15s, but again, but then they said no, the Qatari pilot did it, and you do see the F-18 flying, as the past the F-15. So I'm still thinking that it was a friendly fire incident. It's just the guy in it wasn't probably friendly. He was probably an Iranian sympathizer. I mean, we don't know what happened to that pilot after he landed, right? So it was probably like, yeah, they probably executed him for, yeah. Uh, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on it. I still say they're going to sink an aircraft carrier. Just when? I think what they want is the boots on the ground first. Get that disaster, because once you kill like 2,500 guys, that's not going to rally, and then sink the aircraft carriers. Like, again, I call it Operation Red Meat. Like, the Iranians are like luring, their victims in, and then I think because it would make the most sense to do that. Because if you could have, like, say, out of the 11 aircraft carrier groups, you could have almost, say, 7 groups there, right? And knock out like 5 or 7 aircraft carriers in a night or two, and they can do it. They know where these air carrier groups are at all times. It's just there's like, okay, when they're way out like 1,000 miles off the coast, it benefits them because, like, if you listen to the Iranian generals, they're like, well, the further away that they have to operate, the more maintenance is going to be, the more fuel they're going to have to burn up. Like, they're burning up U.S. resources, and the aircraft carrier group is probably, I mean, that's $9 million a day to run a carrier group, right? Just to keep these things moving in forward motion. That doesn't include the maintenance, doesn't include the, like that's just the fuel cost. You know what I mean? Tankers and stuff like that. So the idea is that you bog down your enemy in maintenance, and then you can hit them when they're on the ground. Yeah. It's a superior strategy because you get to the point where you have to slow down your targeting, which means you're going to go through your stockpiles slower, which means you get more time to replenish your stockpiles with more advanced weapons. Like I say, right now, if we are to believe the Iranians, take it with a grain of salt, they are replacing the drones faster than they're firing them off, and I believe they probably are because they're building those same drones for Russia, right? The question will be is how much material do they have left, not how fast are they building, but at some point, I believe that they're going to start to get resupply through back channels. Maybe they'll get it through. Well, I mean, they could probably be supplied by train, unless the Americans blew up the train station, because there is a hub that they were building, a train station hub that they were building, which would basically help the BRICS nations, and they were almost about to complete it, just like a week before the invasion, right? They completed it, and that would basically bypass the shipping. Meaning you could, it might be a little longer, a little bit, maybe even more expensive, but you can get a more reliable, like the Americans, the Navy wouldn't be able to control the trains, right, as easily. Hard to say. And once you do that, you basically got a direct line of oil going to China, right? So, yeah. China's invested in this. There's no doubt about that. Pulling THAAD systems away from Taiwan, I'm sure the Taiwanese are not happy about that at all. Yeah, it's like China's like, oh, they're going to make the invasion easier? Okay. But no, the Iranian strategy is endure and outlast, because if there's going to be no regime change at this point. Like, look, Saddam, you were able to topple him twice, right? And there wasn't anything he could really do about it. Gaddafi, you got him in one shot. Assad hung on the longest. And again, the Iranians were helping Assad. And they learned a lot of stuff fighting these ISIS guys. So they know how to fight an insurgency war for sure. But they also probably took on a lot of technical data on how the U.S. uses its cruise missiles and stuff like that. Like the Iranians are not stupid. The fact, for the first time in history, since World War II at least, that the Americans have you know, hit an enemy that is almost as capable as they are. Like, so this whole we don't do a fair fight. Yeah, that's true. Like Maduro wasn't a fair fight, right? Yeah, half the guys, betrayed him. Like it was an inside job. If like it doesn't take a rocket. Like Trump allegedly tried to pay people off, and then he didn't pay them. So the Venezuelans might kill Trump. Who knows? If Trump fails on this mission, the Israelis might kill him. Why? Because it's like, well, you failed, you stupid goy, right? And Trump's going to be the fall guy no matter what. Him and his staff, right? The Israelis are not. They never take responsibility for anything, right? But it doesn't matter because the world can kind of see that the emperor has no clothes. They know Israel's role in this. This is all the wars in the Middle East are for Israel. Like it's almost impossible to deny that. But even with that said, we'll see what tomorrow brings. So next to that, I know there's a lot of shit going on in the world and everything getting more expensive and all that. And winter's just kind of really hanging on there. But yeah, go enjoy your Paddy's Day. Go drink some green beer. Not too much because it goes in good, but it comes out worse. It goes in green, comes out green. I won't be drinking today, but anyway, I got some other stuff I want to do today. So I was working on my song yesterday. I just started recording the drums, and my dad came down here to let me know one of my clients called. I had to go do that yesterday. I think I pulled a muscle in my leg or something. It's like, oh, my calf is so sore. Move it a certain way, so I got to take it easy on myself. So I was doing drums yesterday, and then went and did some ice picking, I guess you could say. And then I was supposed to go do my taxes today, but I'll be doing that tomorrow. Because woke up this morning, my brother was stuck in our driveway. it's like yeah, we were all gonna go grocery shopping and drop off the taxes, do all that stuff, and I know taxes. And then it's like, well, if we can't get out of the driveway, I think that's a sign we should stay home. But it's going to be really cold tonight. See that? I shaved my beard and everything just goes freaking stupid cold. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. We'll see. We'll see where this goes tonight, tomorrow, and the next day. But it does look like, this brawl's. It's long from over, but the U.S. and Israel, they're clearly losing the advantages that they had. And I think we're about to see like people think the Iranians are doing scorched earth, and I'm like, there's nothing that they're showing that shows scorched earth. We got to clarify that one thing. Okay, scorched earth is when you just start hitting anything and everything, right? Just willy-nilly hit anything and everything, kind of like what the Americans and Israelis are doing, right? That's scorched earth. Okay, we'll just kill everybody, right? Real scorched earth for the Israelis will be dropping a nuke on Iran, but again, you can kill millions of people, but it's not going to stop the regime from firing back. You can, like, how many nukes can you drop on the mountain? Like, they'll still fire the rockets through the mountain. Like, you're just not going to, the nukes are kind of, they're the wrong weapon. You know what I mean? They're the wrong weapon. And when you do that, they might go scorched earth and just carpet bomb your entire country, right? Like, Israel won't survive, and this is all being done for Israel. I don't think the Iranians are going scorched earth because in the countries, the Gulf State countries that they're hitting, okay, yes, they're hitting civilian targets like motels, but that's because there's American soldiers, so it's an asset. They're hitting runways of domestic airports because it's basically. There's, it's a part of the war effort. Like they're hitting military targets predominantly, or things around intelligence, military, or economic. Those are the things that they're hitting, right? And clearly they got the Strait of Hormuz, so that's the economic. So they have a multi-pronged, very coordinated, very planned out. Is it going 100% according to plan? Probably not, but they definitely have everybody, the world economy, by the short and curlies, right? So anyway, I'm going to leave it at about that. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Stay safe. Keep prepping. I doubt we'll see any sanity in the world anytime soon, but one can hope. Anyway, there we go.